Hello, and welcome to English Active Listening. I'm your host, Alyssa. Today, we're diving into something really fun and super useful for anyone learning English. We're going to talk about 20 idioms that native speakers use all the time. Idioms are those special phrases where the meaning isn't what you'd expect from the individual words. They're like little secrets of the language. And once you know them, you'll feel so much more confident understanding native speakers. So, let's get started with our first idiom. Break a leg. Now, if you hear someone say, break a leg, you might think, oh no, that sounds terrible. But don't worry, it's actually a great thing. This phrase is a way of wishing someone good luck, especially before they perform on a stage or do something important. For example, before an actor goes on stage for a play, a friend might say, "You've been practicing so hard? Go out there and break a leg." Let's imagine a short conversation. A student is about to take a big final exam, and her friend says, "Don't be nervous. You've studied for weeks, so just go in there and break a leg." The student understands this as a message of encouragement, not a wish for her to get hurt. Now, for a quick practice. I want you to think of a time when you or a friend needed some good luck. Maybe before a job interview, a sports game, or even a presentation at work. How could you use the idiom break a leg in that situation? Try saying it out loud a few times to get a feel for it. Okay, our next idiom is, the ball is in your court. This one comes from a game, like tennis. In tennis, when the ball is on your side of the net, it's your turn to hit it. So when we say the ball is in your court, we mean that it's now your turn to take action or make a decision. Someone else has done what they needed to do, and now it's up to you. Here's an example. Imagine you've applied for a job, and after a great interview, the hiring manager says, "We've reviewed your application, and now the ball is in your court." This means they've made an offer and are waiting for you to decide whether to accept it. The decision is completely up to you. Another situation could be with a group project. You've finished your part and sent it to your classmate. You could tell them, "I've sent you my section of the report, so the ball is in your court now." This clearly communicates that you've completed your task, and it's their turn to do their part. And for practice, think of a recent situation where you were waiting for someone else to act. Maybe you were waiting for a friend to reply to a message, or for a colleague to approve a proposal. How could you use this idiom to describe that situation? You could say something like, "I've sent the email, so now the ball is in his court." And we're back. Thank you for joining us again on English Active Listening. We're having so much fun with these idioms. Let's get right back into it and learn our third one. A very delicious sounding one. A piece of cake. Now, I'm not talking about a dessert that you eat after dinner. If someone says a task was a piece of cake, it means it was very easy to do. It was so simple, it didn't require much effort at all. For instance, imagine a friend just finished their math exam. You ask them, "How was the test?" And they reply, "Oh, it was a piece of cake. I finished in half the time." This tells you the test was not difficult at all for them. Here's another example. Maybe you're helping a friend move a heavy sofa, but it turns out to be much lighter than you thought. You could say, "Wow, I thought this would be a lot of work, but it was a piece of cake." Now for a little practice. Think about something you did recently that was surprisingly easy. Maybe it was cooking a new recipe, fixing a small problem, or understanding a difficult concept. How would you describe that experience using the idiom, a piece of cake? Say it out loud. That new recipe was a piece of cake. Or, I was worried about the presentation, but it was a piece of cake. All right, moving on to our fourth idiom. This one is great for when you want to agree with someone's accurate observation. To hit the nail on the head. Think about using a hammer and a nail. If you hit the nail on its head, you've done it perfectly. So when a person hits the nail on the head, it means they have described a situation or identified a problem exactly right. They've said something that is perfectly accurate. Let's use an example. A group of friends is trying to figure out why their favorite restaurant isn't as popular as it used to be. One friend says, "The new menu is just too expensive." And you might reply, "Yes, you've hit the nail on the head." That's exactly the problem. You're telling them that their analysis is spot on. Another time you might use, "This is in a business meeting." A colleague is explaining why a new project is failing. And they say, "I think we didn't spend enough time on the planning phase." And you could say, "You've hit the nail on the head. I couldn't agree more." And for our fifth idiom today, a phrase that is very common, especially during the colder months. Under the weather. If you're under the weather, it means you feel sick or unwell. It's a gentle and polite way of saying you're not feeling well without going into too much detail. For example, your friend calls you to invite you out for dinner. You don't sound very energetic, so you say, "I'm so sorry. I can't go out tonight. I'm feeling a little under the weather." This lets them know you're sick and need to stay home and rest. You might also use this at work. If a colleague asks why you were absent yesterday, you could say, "I was under the weather yesterday, but I'm feeling much better today." It's a simple, clear, and professional way to explain your absence. So, for practice, imagine you have a slight headache or a sore throat. How would you tell a friend or family member that you're not feeling well using this idiom? Try to use it in a sentence. "I think I'll stay home today because I'm feeling a bit under the weather." And we're back again on English Active Listening. I'm Alyssa, and we're continuing our deep dive into these fantastic idioms. You're doing great, and by the end of this, you'll have so many new phrases to use. Let's jump right in with our next idiom, to bite the bullet. This one sounds a little intense, right? It actually comes from a time when soldiers in battle would literally bite on a bullet during a painful surgery without anesthesia. Today, we use it to mean that you have to face a difficult or unpleasant situation with courage, even if you don't want to. It's about accepting something that you can't change and just getting through it. For instance, you've been putting off a difficult phone call. You know you have to make. Your friend might say to you, "You've been worrying about this for days." It's time to just bite the bullet and make the call. This means it's time to stop delaying and just do the hard thing. Here's another example. Maybe you have a lot of work to do over the weekend, and you would much rather be relaxing. You could tell yourself, "I'll just have to bite the bullet and finish this report today so I can enjoy the rest of the weekend." So, for a little practice, think of a time when you knew you had to do something unpleasant or hard. It could be having a difficult conversation, doing a chore you hate, or something else. How would you use this idiom to describe that feeling? Say it out loud. "The project is tough, but I have to bite the bullet and get it done." Our next idiom is to get out of hand. This is a phrase we use when a situation loses control. It starts to become unmanageable or chaotic. Think about trying to hold something in your hand. If it gets out of hand, you can no longer control it. For example, imagine a small party at your house starts to get very loud, and more people show up unexpectedly. You could say, the party started small, but it's really getting out of hand. This means the situation is no longer under your control. Another situation could be with children. Maybe a group of kids are playing, and their game becomes too wild and noisy. A parent might say, "Okay, everyone, the game is getting out of hand. It's time to calm down." For practice, think of a situation where things went a little crazy or wild. Maybe it was a discussion, a meeting, or an event. How would you describe that using our idiom? You could say, the argument started out small, but it quickly got out of hand. And for our 8th idiom, this is a fun one. To let the cat out of the bag. Don't worry, no animals are involved in this one. When you let the cat out of the bag, you accidentally reveal a secret. It's not something you meant to do, but the secret is now out. A classic example is planning a surprise party for a friend. You might be talking to another friend and accidentally say, "Oh, I'm so excited for your surprise party next week." The other person then says, "Wait, what surprise party?" And you realize you've just let the cat out of the bag. The secret is out. Another time you might use this is if you're telling a friend about a secret you were supposed to keep. You could say, "I'm so sorry. I totally let the cat out of the bag when I talked to her about it." Now, for a little practice. Have you ever accidentally told someone something you weren't supposed to? It could be about a gift, a trip, or a piece of good news. How would you describe what happened? Try saying, "I let the cat out of the bag and told him about the surprise." And we're back. I'm Alyssa, and you're listening to English Active Listening. Thank you for staying with us as we learn more of these great idioms. We've already covered 8, and now we're moving on to number 9. A phrase that talks about doing things in a fast, but not always good way. To cut corners. When you cut corners, it means you do something in the quickest or easiest way, often by skipping important steps or using cheaper materials. You do it to save time or money, but the result might not be as good as it could be. It's usually seen as a negative thing. For example, a construction worker might be building a house. To save money, he decides to use low-quality wood for the roof, even though he knows it's not a good idea. His boss might say, "I'm worried he's going to cut corners on this project." This means the boss is concerned the work won't be done properly. Another situation could be a student writing an essay. Instead of doing proper research, they just quickly find some information online without checking if it's correct. Their teacher might say, "You can tell the student cut corners on this assignment." The quality of the work is not high because the student took the easy way out. For practice, think of a time when someone did something without putting in their full effort. Maybe it was a rushed job at work or a quick attempt at a project. How would you use this idiom to describe their actions? Try saying, "The company cut corners on the product, and it broke right away." Our 10th idiom is a very useful one for describing something that isn't special because there are so many of them. A dime a dozen. A dime is a small coin in the United States. And a dozen means 12. The phrase "a dime a dozen" means something is very common and therefore not valuable or special. Think about it. If you could buy 12 of something for just a dime, it must not be worth very much. For example, if you're looking for a job as a waiter in a big city, your friend might tell you, "Don't worry, there are jobs for waiters everywhere. They're a dime a dozen." This means that waiter jobs are very common and easy to find, so you shouldn't be concerned. Here's another example. Maybe you're trying to find a unique gift for a friend. You go into a store and see a certain type of necklace everywhere. You could say, "I like this necklace, but these are a dime a dozen. I want to find something more special." And our 11th idiom for today is to miss the boat. This is a great phrase for when you've lost an opportunity. It comes from the idea of being late and literally watching a boat leave the harbor without you on it. If you miss the boat, it means you missed your chance to do something. And it's too late now. A common example is with a sale. You hear about a huge sale on a product you want, but you don't go to the store right away. When you finally go, all the products are sold out. You might say, "I really wanted that new phone, but I waited too long and missed the boat." Another time you might use, "This is for a job application." A job you were interested in had a deadline, but you didn't apply in time. You could tell your friend, "They've already started the interviews. I missed the boat on that job." And we're back. You're listening to English Active Listening with me, Alyssa. I hope you're ready for more of these great idioms. We've just passed our halfway point, and it's time to keep going. Our 12th idiom is a perfect one for all the students out there: to hit the books. Now, we don't actually mean to hit your books with your hands. If you hear a friend say, "I can't go out tonight, I have to hit the books," it means they have to study very hard. It's a phrase used especially when you need to study intensely for a test or a big exam. For instance, your son has an important final exam coming up at school. You could say to him, "You've got a big test on Friday, so you'd better hit the books tonight." This is a clear way of telling him he needs to study. Our 13th idiom is a really positive one, about putting in extra effort, to go the extra mile. This idiom means to make a special effort to do or achieve something. It's about doing more than what is expected of you, and it's a great quality to have in any part of your life. For example, imagine you're at a restaurant, and your waiter is incredibly helpful and friendly. They bring you a special dessert you didn't even ask for. You might say to your friend, "The service here is incredible. The waiter really went the extra mile for us." Another situation could be at your job. A coworker helps you finish a project, even though it wasn't part of their responsibility. You could thank them by saying, "Thanks so much for your help. You really went the extra mile on this." And our 14th idiom is perfect for when you're working with other people: to be on the same page. When two or more people are on the same page, it means they are in agreement or have the same understanding about a plan or a situation. It's a key part of good teamwork and communication. Imagine you're working on a project with a colleague. You need to make sure you both have the same goals and ideas. You could ask them, "Before we continue, let's just confirm our plan. Are we on the same page?" This is a quick way to check if you both agree. And we're back on English Active Listening with me, Alyssa. You are doing a fantastic job keeping up with all these idioms. Let's learn a few more to add to your ever-growing vocabulary. Our 15th idiom is a good one to remember when you're feeling ambitious: to bite off more than you can chew. Now, this idiom comes from the literal act of putting too much food in your mouth at once. If you bite off more than you can chew, it means you have taken on a task or a responsibility that is too big or too difficult for you to handle. It's a phrase we use when someone has underestimated the difficulty of something. For example, a friend might decide to get a second job and take 3 difficult university courses at the same time. You might say to them, "Are you sure about this? It sounds like you're biting off more than you can chew." You're suggesting that they have taken on too many responsibilities and will struggle to manage them all. Our 16th idiom is about changing your mind, to have a change of heart. This phrase means that you change your opinion or feelings about a person or a situation. You might have felt one way about something, but then you reconsider and feel differently. For example, imagine a friend was planning to sell her old car. At the last minute, she decides to keep it because she has an emotional attachment to it. You could say, she was ready to sell the car, but at the last minute, she had a change of heart. And our 17th idiom is a classic one, often used when someone's behavior comes back to them. To get a taste of your own medicine. This idiom means that a person receives the same bad treatment or negativity that they have given to others. It's often used when we feel that a person is being treated in a way they deserve. For instance, there's a person who is always late for meetings and never apologizes. One day they are waiting for a group of people who are an hour late. They get upset and you might think, well, now he's getting a taste of his own medicine. He is now experiencing the same frustration he has caused others. And welcome back to English Active Listening. I'm your host, Alyssa. We are on our final stretch, learning the last few of our 20 useful English idioms. You've done an amazing job so far. Our 18th idiom is a comforting one for when things eventually work out. In the long run. When we talk about what happens in the long run, we are talking about what will happen over a long period of time in the future. It's about the overall outcome, not necessarily what happens immediately. For example, starting a new business can be very difficult and stressful at first. You might not see results immediately. However, someone encouraging you might say, "Don't get discouraged by the early challenges. In the long run, your hard work will pay off." This means that eventually, after a lot of time, things will get better and you will be successful. Our 19th idiom is a very common one used when you need to deal with a problem directly. To face the music. This idiom means to accept the negative consequences of your actions. It's about taking responsibility for what you've done, even if it's unpleasant. Imagine a student who hasn't studied for their exams and ends up failing. When their parents find out, they will have to face the music and deal with the consequences, like being grounded or having extra homework. And finally, our 20th and last idiom for today is a very encouraging one. Every cloud has a silver lining. This idiom means that every difficult or sad situation has a positive aspect to it. Even when things seem bad, there is usually something good that can come out of it, even if it's not immediately obvious. For example, if someone loses their job, it's a very difficult experience. However, a friend might say, "It's tough right now, but remember, every cloud has a silver lining." This might be an opportunity for you to find an even better job that you'll love more. And there you have it. 20 useful English idioms that native speakers use all the time. I hope you've enjoyed learning these with me today on English Active Listening. Remember, the key to mastering idioms is to hear them used in context and to practice using them yourself. Don't be afraid to try them out in your conversations. Thank you for tuning in. Keep practicing your active listening skills. And I look forward to bringing you more helpful English lessons next time. Until then, take care and keep learning.